G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder with Mags. Today we're flying out the MiG-9 Late. A rank 5 battle rating 7.0 fighter of the Soviet Air Forces. It's armed with a 37mm N37D cannon with 40 rounds of ammunition, and two 23mm NS-23K cannons with 160 rounds of ammunition between them. Maximum listed speed is 967 km an hour, fully upgraded, at a height of 3,280 feet. Max altitude is 44,000 feet, with a turn time of 26 seconds, according to the stat cards. Rate of climb, according to the stat cards, is of course 5,512 feet a minute, although you can get higher with a burst climb. Now today's match is a battle rating 8 maximum match, so we're in the upper level that the MiG-9 can face. Soviet forces primarily consisted of MiG-9 Lates, although there was a single Tu-4 and two IL-28s on the team, while Allied forces carried quite the mix. There was a number of attackers, there was a number of P-80s, it was at least one F-80C, and a mix of Meteor F Mark IIIs and Meteor F Mark IVs, with Canberras and B-57 bombers representing the bombing side for the Allies. So overall, the matchmaker provided a pretty good mix of fighters for this match, with nobody at a significant disadvantage. So it didn't take us too long to come across our first target, an F-84 Thunderjet that's quickly crossed the field using its air spawn to try and engage our aircraft as they're still beginning their climb outs. Now I've taken altitude rather quickly in my MiG-9 Late. I took a slightly different upgrade path with it than I did with my MiG-9. My MiG-9 Late is fully upgraded in terms of performance upgrades, however I have not yet taken the 23mm or 37mm cannon upgrades, only the belts as stock ammunition is horrible. As a result, I'm flying my MiG-9 Late with a 600 meter gun convergence with vertical targeting on, which I pretty much run as standard on all of the MiG jet models due to the variable cannon armament. I normally run 800 once I've finally got the 23mm and 37mm cannon upgrades. The 600 meters is to compensate for the shotgun effect that these guns have without the upgrades. I run a shorter convergence and tend to engage enemy aircraft at a closer range. And we get a critical strike to the right wing on the F-84. Now he is going to run hard. I was contemplating following him at this point, but I can see he's going to just drag me out of the combat area, which is not what I want at this time. So rather than attempting to follow, use the airspeed that I've gained, push the aircraft into WEP, and start climbing rapidly for altitude before turning back on the target zone. That damage to the F-84's wing is, well, it's likely going to render it relatively ineffective at combat at this point, depending on how severe it is. At the very least, its maneuverability is going to be significantly reduced. At the most, the damage should be significant enough to cause the aircraft to need to land, which may result in a crash. In either case, he's not going to be around here to bother me at the moment, so we'll deal with him later if it becomes necessary. At this point, I'm more concerned with these Meteors. Now, being a battle rating 8 match, there is a mix of Meteor F Mark IIIs and Meteor F Mark IVs inside of this battle. Now, both Meteor variants are significantly more maneuverable than the MiG-9 Late, and both of them feature air brakes, which allows for some interesting combat maneuvers should the pilots know how to utilize them. However, what's more worrying is why the Meteor F3 can have its maneuverability countered with the speed of the MiG-9 Late, especially under WEP conditions. The Meteor 4s are fully capable of keeping up with the MiG-9 Late and outmaneuvering it in combat, so I have to take the opportunity to eliminate any Meteors that I come across as quickly as is possible. So as I move into gun range on this Meteor F Mark III, it sees me coming and banks over hard. Now I could attempt to try and follow it at this point, however I would blow a lot of speed, and I don't want to do that. Speed is life in a MiG-9, so point the nose straight up into the sky and start climbing out. I do take a clip from behind as the Meteor F3 swings its guns back around to take a shot, but it blew too much energy in the turn, was unable to follow, and thus I make an escape. So at this point I begin a rollover on the MiG-9 to re-dive on that Meteor. I do want them eliminated, as if they're not eliminated quickly, if they're allowed to get altitude and airspeed, they can be a significant problem in the late game. Although at this point I haven't actually looked at the point score at the top of the screen yet, so I haven't realised how much we are already winning by. We have a Tu-4 on our team that has already dropped over 12 tons of bombs on target. And currently we have two IL-28s that are ripping the remaining ground targets for our team completely apart. So once again pushing up towards 900 kilometers an hour, and I'm beginning to be engaged from behind. I have a P-80A and an attacker behind. Now the F-84 that I criticaled earlier on has attempted to go for a landing and has just crashed on the runway. So that is my first kill of the match. Now the Meteor is going into the vertical. I'm going to maneuver to follow it, using my airspeed to quickly close distance, take a shot for the lead and miss, and continue my climb into a loop to re-dive and re-pursue the Meteor. Now that attacker on my 6 is keeping very close distance at the moment. I think this is one thing that a lot of people forget with the attacker. I know it gets a lot of hate, but the attacker is actually capable of keeping up with the MiG-9 when it's fully upgraded, at least for short periods of time, and theoretically has better armament. While the guns are based on the wings, so they don't have that nice nose shot, there is a lot more ammo to them, so you can afford to miss a lot more. Rapidly close back in on the Meteor, take the lead as it rolls over to engage our MiG-9 and eliminate it, but unfortunately not fast enough to save our other MiG-9 late. So that's my second kill of the match. However, I still have this attacker to my 6. Now, as I said a moment ago, the attacker fully upgraded is capable of keeping up with the MiG-9 late, and considering that how closely it's been able to maintain speed at this time, I think it's likely that this one is fully upgraded. So push the nose down and go to WEP. The WEP on the MiG-9 is extremely powerful. It does significantly increase the aircraft's airspeed and acceleration. However, as you can see, it does overheat the engine rather quickly. However, shutting it down almost immediately cools the engines off. At least it does with full upgrades. You can afford to ride the WEP for a couple of minutes at a time. Anything more than that, you run the risk of doing damage to your engine. Now at this point, I did also see a Banshee behind me, so I'm keeping my speed fast, I'm keeping myself low, and my intention is to hug the ground all the way through to the runway. Now you can't see it on screen at the time as I run the external browser window with the external browser map on a second monitor that also contains a chat window. So I can still read chat while flying without having it show up and mess up the appearance of the recordings. However, there's just been a call out. There's currently 2 aircraft moving in on the runway, and we have an IL-28 on the ground and a second aircraft that was in the process of trying to get a landing when these aircraft arrive. So I'm using the ground to try and hug and avoid potential fire from the rear while moving back to the runway to defend these aircraft that are currently on the ground by trying to intercept the fighters. And there they are there. We have a Meteor and an attacker approaching the runway. Now I'm trying to bring the MiG-9 around the side of the runway to run the length of the runway. This should give me a side shot on the aircraft as they're attempting to strafe out anything that happens to be on the ground. We'll tip it around the side of the mountain here, and this should line us up directly with the runway as we go through the pass. There's the IL-28 that's on the ground. He was the one who made the call out. MiG-9 in the air. And we can see there's also a P-80 and it's almost on top of us. Quickly fire the burst and pull up. And there is our third kill for the match. Not the most complex kill that I've ever had. I assume that P-80 probably thought my aircraft was damaged and I was going for a landing. However, the second P-80 is coming from the rear. Dip the nose down, I'm pushing 730, I need to accelerate back out towards 900 in order to keep the distance on him. He is a little bit too close, and it looks like flak has just clipped him. Begin my turnaround to engage. The IL-28 is now clearing the runway. It looks like somebody has attempted to bomb the runway. It has taken slight damage, and the P-80 goes in. Looks like we still have the Meteor high and to the rear, so it will be my next target. Long left-hand bank around in order to begin neutralizing the altitude difference between me and the Meteor, and then I'll begin pursuit of that Meteor as my next target. Unfortunately, I never get a chance at another engagement. This is about where the match comes to an end. The Tu-4 on our team has come back to the runway. It's deployed all of its bombs and it's currently using AAA to defend itself. However, our 2 IL-28s have reloaded and are currently going ham on the remaining ground targets. We're now down to 7 targets remaining, and before any person on either team gets to fire another shot, the match comes to a close via the elimination of ground targets. So let's flick through to the results. So the results for the match: 4th place for the team with 3 kills. It is, however, interesting to note that there were only 4 enemy aircraft shot down by the entire team this match, with 8 losses to the enemy team, so they had at least 4 crashes in there. At least one of those being a B-57 at the start that bombed himself as he was deploying against ground targets. 1st, 2nd and 3rd place for the team went to the Tu-4 and 2 IL-28s that were in the match, with the Tu-4 dropping 12.2 tonnes of explosives, with the IL-28s dropping 1.5 and splitting the 20 mission critical ground targets between them. Awards for the match were Fighter Rescuer, Shadow Strike Streak X3, Terror of the Sky and Bulletproof. 42,296 Silver Lions for the match, which would have been 64,721 with a premium account. Vehicle research was 4,034 research points without premium, with 2,241 research in modifications. This research going to the 23mm cannons for the MiG-9 late and the Tu-4 respectively. So total match time was 11 minutes and 21 seconds, which is actually not entirely uncommon. It's surprising for some people. Realistic battles do tend to happen at a faster rate than a lot of arcade battles actually do. But what was most interesting about this particular one is I never felt the fighters got to the end phase of the battle. If you watch and play enough battles in War Thunder, you can see that the battles themselves are generally can be divided into 3 phases. Your first phase is the initial engagement under climb, your main battle is your second phase, and then your final phase of fighting tends to happen when one team has a significant advantage in terms of numbers and clusters the remaining aircraft on the opposing team. In this particular battle, and in all the recent battles that I've played in the MiG-9, in the 7 to 8 battle rating category, I never felt like we got to that final phase. Both teams had roughly equal numbers in terms of fighters when the match came to a close. Now this can only happen if one team or both teams ignore the bombers on the opposing team. In this particular battle, one B-57 did avoid most of the Soviet forces, however the rest of the B-57s and campers were eliminated either by killing themselves during bombing or were shot down by fighters. However, the Tu-4 and the two Il-28s on the Soviet side were largely ignored for the entire battle, outside of that one moment when the Il-28 was on the runway and in the process of being intercepted. While I know nobody likes engaging Tu-4s and Il-28s due to those phenomenal 23mm turret gunners, hell, when flying Allied forces, Tu-4s and Il-28s tend to concern me more than enemy fighters do. I do find it interesting that Allied forces now seem to be just ignoring them, or at least they did in all of my recent flyouts, letting the bombers themselves dictate the course and the length of the match. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to leave a comment in the comment section down below if you wish to, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel for more content. Until next time, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.